Sawastica. Hi. I've got a very controversial name but just remember I'm from Asia, not from that part of the world. I know Jerusalem is a bit controversial, as mentioned, but I come from the Holy Land of the Philippines, but now an Australian, and then living in Singapore. So I've started with Zerto only about 3 months ago, and I've been to Thailand at least about 6 times now. So obviously, I've heard quite a lot about the things that are happening in Thailand in terms of cyber resiliency. And in this presentation today, I'll be talking about 6 strategies that we've heard from customers and prospects across the globe. Those 6 strategies that would make up a ransomware resilience criteria. And then second, I'd call out the 3 pillars with the Zerto platform and how we can help customers and prospects to become more resilient. And then last but not the least, I'll be telling you about a Thai company that have successfully been battling it out with ransomware. So that being said, let's move on. My thing is not moving. Always happens, or at least you know it's live, right? So, okay, still not moving. Maybe if I do that, or this, still not moving. Maybe that, like that. Oh, look at that. So there you go. Obviously, the threat of landscape is evolving. As you could see here, 6 out of 10 DR incidents are triggered by ransomware. Although later today, I'll also be discussing a few things that you should be prepared for outside of ransomware. But as you could see here, not just in Thailand, not just in Southeast Asia, but across Asia Pacific and even the globe, these are like the 4 tenets as to why the threat landscape is evolving, right? You know, from evolving security threats around the globe. Here in Thailand, I've actually found out that on average, there's about 2,300 to 2,400 attacks that have happened on a weekly basis. So if you count that, that's what about close to about 200,000 attacks on an annual basis, and that apparently is actually more than the average globally, according to the Bangkok Post. And unfortunately, with the solutions that we have right now, the average ransomware recovery time takes a month, which obviously is not enough if we are to become resilient against ransomware attacks. Beyond the cost of recovery, again, I've shared with you those stats about what's happening in Bangkok or in Thailand, and it's interesting. The industry that have been most attacked is actually the education sector, and then it's followed by the public sector, and then the third vertical, it's actually a toss between the financial sector and the manufacturing sectors, right? So, you know, I guess it's tantamount to saying that it could really hit everyone when your average cost of ransomware recovery is almost $2 million. You begin to listen, right? And sadly, again, the average backup solution would take almost a month for you to recover your data. And again, another unfortunate use is almost 7 out of 10 of these companies that have been recently attacked, as you could see in the slide, they have actually suffered revenue loss. And the most unfortunate is 1 out of 4 companies are actually led to close down, losing their reputation in the market, which is definitely something that everyone here needs to be aware and needs to avoid. Moving on, this is just quantifies how much it could hurt your business in terms of the downtime, right? So again, the figure that you see, an average of 250,000 USD, it's not a Zerto or HPE statistic. This is actually based on the discussions that we have on relevant data, which suggests that if your RPO or if your daily backup would take a day, or our recovery point objective if your recovery time objective would take up to about 8 hours, then again, the impact could be absolutely severe to the tune of 8 million. Again, storage replication, it could lower down the damage, but it's still in the millions of dollars. And I'll discuss later why the Zerto platform is quite powerful against ransomware. And you could see here, right, when we could reduce RPO and RTO by up to 95, 98%, the millions of dollars getting reduced to under 50,000 in terms of very minimal damage, then you begin to listen how important it is to be rewinding and recovering your data within a matter of minutes and sometimes seconds, right? So moving along, we'll go deeper now into ransomware resilience. And again, later on, you can ask me questions. I've actually brought with me Nick Tan, who's the expert in terms of ransomware recovery. But this slide, based on NIST, there's actually a very big part of the investments in IT that are more on detection and responding to cyber events. However, whilst much of the cyber budgets are focused on those two, we need to ensure that the last section, which is the tactical recovery phase and your last means to survive a ransomware, the strategic side, these are some investments that all of us should be aware of and should be advocating for to avoid losing data through ransomware or any other similar attacks. Moving on, again, I've mentioned the top 6 criteria. Again, this is not a Zerto information. This is based on the discussions that I've had with CISOs, with CIOs across Southeast Asia and even APAC. And I just wanted to walk you through all these things, right? So I won't read this line by or tile by tile, but essentially what this is suggesting is the companies that have survived or coped up with ransomware, they want to highlight that you should be able to minimize your recovery point objective and recovery time objective. The last piece about testing or proving recoverability, that to me is very important in terms of how we should consider a ransomware resiliency solution. And then we should be hard to locate, right, in terms of diversifying our data locations and formats. And again, we'll be going deeper into each of these 6 sections as we move along, right? So let's start with number 1. A few years back, when I was at Salesforce, I was focusing on the data team, and we found out, and it's now become apparent, right? Data is the most important resource. I think the MD of Mastercard said before, Amex, I think he said that data is the new oil. And again, it speaks for itself, right? Data is very critical. According to IDC, 6 out of 10 organizations have really taken this step into being data-driven. And I've seen the uptake in Thailand, particularly about organizations really wanting to have a data-driven approach. But again, despite us being concerned about data and all of us agreeing that it's a very important resource, again, the downtime could be severe in terms of getting that affected to the tune of $250,000 an hour. Obviously, when you lose your data, it leads to brand and reputational damage, and at worst, the business closing down, right? So second in the list, it's very important that we can prove the recoverability of our data. Again, as you could see some stats here, unfortunately, much of the companies or organizations that we've spoken with in Thailand, in the Philippines, in Singapore, 60% says that, I don't have enough time, it's not very important. Half of them would say that I don't have enough resources to support a data resiliency strategy or a ransomware strategy. Almost 40% are saying that it's not even a priority. And again, the last piece, some are just saying that 1 out of 10 would say, oh, I give up, this is too complicated. So again, when we look at the ransomware data resiliency solution, simplicity is key. We should make sure that the platform that we use is something that's familiar to everyone, something that's straightforward and can be easily understood. And again, that last piece, orchestration, automation, being able to recover clean data, that should be paramount and is something that all of us should be aware of. Got 9 minutes. Okay, third, being cunning, making sure that we become a hard target. With Zerto, you can actually rewind your data based on our technology up to between 5, 10, and 15 seconds. So why settle for 3-1 or even 4-3-1 when you could go 1,000 3-1, right? So, as the data explosion continues, we need to think about how can we diversify our data? How can we work with multi-service providers, or how can we utilize the public cloud to complement the data that we have over the edge, so that again we become a hard target for the ransomware attackers. Fourth in the list, application scenic. Complete coverage. Yes, that's the fourth one that I wanted to discuss. Obviously, we wanna ensure that protection is across all our data, right? Be it on-premise data, be it software as a service. We want to make sure that there's dedicated, independent protection for the data that we use. Obviously, SaaS data is very vital as well, and it's really our responsibility to protect that. Again, a few things to consider here is we should avoid being locked in by a single provider. Why can't we think about diversifying our data and using Azure and then AWS as a combination, as well as using it, putting some of our data in-house? And the last thing, I think this really resonates about data vaults, particularly in industries like the banking sector, where it's very important that we have our core data always protected. It's something that can be utilized when it's needed. And obviously, clean rooms, best practice, that's something that really resonates to the prospects and customers that we've spoken globally. Application-centric, most applications have multiple components. That's why data and application should be working as one. It says here that we need to protect the app as a whole and not just the component parts. When we modernize our apps, it becomes more distributed. And then and some data becomes harder to protect. It becomes more complex. That's why we should also consider software or auto mapping capabilities or dependencies. Last but not the least, in the strategies or the ransomware criteria, there's very compelling stats here, right? So the average time to expectation is down to less than 2 weeks, but the time to implement patches globally takes more than a month. So that's why we need to test and push out patches a lot faster. So we want to make sure that encryption detection, it's very vital that there's quick response, that your ransomware resilience platform is able to do that. We want to make use of on-demand sandboxes, instant patch and upgrade verification, data forensic processes, and again, last but not the least, those vulnerability scanning and testing. It's very important that we could do that in our platform without affecting production data. So I just wanted to flash the screen again because this is not a Zerto stat. This is not a success criteria that's driven by us. It's actually driven by all the conversations that we've had in companies in Thailand, in Southeast Asia, in APAC, and even the globe. So again, I wanted to mention some of the recommendations from our customers. Minimize your RPO and RTO. We should test often and effectively without any disruption. Diversify, being a hard target. VMs, K8s, cloud and SaaS data, it's our responsibility. Apps have dependencies, so therefore we should definitely protect all the data that we use in our organization. So I wanted to summarize the 4 things to remember when it comes to ransomware resiliency. First, we need to challenge the SLAs. A lot of the backup solutions that we have can only give you protection, 4 hours every 8 hours. Most of the companies that I've spoken to, they do their data backup within 24 hours. So as you can imagine, we should make sure that we are not beholden to the SLA of the vendors like us, but it has to be something that really resonates, something that's applicable to you as a company so that you can be resilient against ransomware. Second, don't ignore recovery and replication. It's always a multi-pronged, multi-layered approach. So be sure to also put emphasis not only on the recovery, but not only on prevention, but if you get an attack, again, it's not a question of when, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when, that you are able to recover the data. Choose the right recovery solution. Sorry, I just had a different voice there. But it's saying here, not all ransomware attacks are the same, and not all recovery solutions can really recover and replicate quickly with minimal data loss. Data loss is a given, but again, you've seen the stats of up to 250,000 damage an hour getting lessened to less than 50K. That's something that should resonate with everyone, so that you can ensure that your solution, the ransomware solutions that you have, again, meets your company SLAs and not the SLAs of the vendor. Last but not the least, to me personally, this is the most important. Being able to prepare, being able to test. I think for the ones who wants to have a healthy living, you test yourself by exercising, by sleeping right, not drinking too much, eating your vegetables, eating your fruits. It's similar to this, right? We want to make sure that we're prepared. We are testing with ease, with confidence, so that when an attack happens, we are able to stand firm and really repel that attack. Moving on, I did mention about the 3 pillars that makes Zerto a reliable partner for companies to protect you from ransomware resilience. First, being able to replicate and detect. It's very important. As you could see here, we don't detect and replicate. We replicate first the data so that when a detection happens, that replicated data is already clean. Second, we should be able to really isolate at the area of the infection and be able to lock it and control that. And then again, I cannot stress this ever enough. The most important thing is being able to test and recover. And from our discussions with the customers that we've spoken to, huge differentiators for us that plays into the core strengths of Zerto. I have a minute and a half. I want to tell you a story about this company. Looks very foreign because it is a multinational company. However, 10K is a growing organization, and guess where the headquarters is? It's actually in Bangkok. So it's into protective gear. As you can see here, the before and after. When they had a backup solution, they moved to a complete CDP. And then the data loss speaks for itself, losing 12 hours of data to just 10 seconds of data. Recovery time from 14 days down to 10 minutes. And obviously, an attack is not a laughing matter, but it just shows you how Jamie has become really confident once they implemented Zerto to protect them from such attacks. All organizations, big or small, are really being complemented. They're really benefiting from single-digit RPOs. Companies like UA, CVS Health, Jack Henry, Fortune 10 organizations are moving to Zerto and HP because it's really a battle-tested CDP since more than a decade ago. And if you look at business resilience, I'm not talking just ransomware resilience now, I'm talking about business resilience. Don't just focus on neutralizing cyber attacks. As you can see here, unfortunately in APAC, we are prone to natural disasters. you could use Zerto to be the underlying support for that as well. And unfortunately, user errors, file deletions that are accidents, that's something that we should be aware as well. And then from a planned and proactive approaches, unlocking multi-cloud capabilities, modernizing infrastructure, these are really the spectrum of the challenges that you can use and depend on Zerto as the backbone for your ransomware resiliency and overall your business resiliency. I've gone over by about a minute, but hopefully it's all good, but we're happy for any questions